softafrique.net or calling 4089615150. Your future in cybersecurity starts here. Are you ready to become a cybersecurity professional in just 4 months? At SoftAfrique, we provide the perfect blend of theory and hands-on experience to prepare you for the job market even before you graduate. Our state-of-the-art virtual labs ensure you gain practical skills. Dedicated virtual machines are assigned to each student, giving you a personalized learning experience. With a 98% success rate, SoftAfrique stands out. We don't just stop at training, we help you craft the perfect resume, ace your interviews, and support you even after you land the job. Why you'll love signing up with us. 1. Each learner gets a complimentary 1-year antivirus subscription for their computer. 2. Dedicated virtual machines are assigned to each student. 3. Students can access recorded classes to review each session as needed. 4. Test banks are available to prepare students for the exam. Our lectures are scheduled from Thursday to Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with 2-hour sessions that fit into your schedule. Join the ranks of successful cybersecurity professionals today. Enroll now at SoftAfrique by emailing us at elearning@softafrique.net or calling 4089615150. Your future in cybersecurity starts here. Are you ready to become a cybersecurity professional in just 4 months? At SoftAfrique, we provide the perfect blend of theory and hands-on experience to prepare you for the job market even before you graduate. Our state-of-the-art virtual labs ensure you gain practical skills. Dedicated virtual machines are assigned to each student, giving you a personalized learning experience. With a 98% success rate, SoftAfrique stands out. We don't just stop at training, we help you craft the perfect resume, ace your interviews, and support you even after you land the job. Why you'll love signing up with us. 1. Each learner gets a complimentary 1-year antivirus subscription for their computer. 2. Dedicated virtual machines are assigned to each student. 3. Students can access recorded classes to review each session as needed. 4. Test banks are available to prepare students for the exam. Our lectures are scheduled from Thursday to Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with 2-hour sessions that fit into your schedule. Join the ranks of successful cybersecurity professionals today. Enroll now at SoftAfrique by emailing us at elearning@softafrique.net or calling 4089615150. Your future in cybersecurity starts here. Are you ready to become a cybersecurity professional in just 4 months? At SoftAfrique, we provide the perfect blend of theory and hands-on experience to prepare you for the job market even before you graduate. Our state-of-the-art virtual labs ensure you gain practical skills. Dedicated virtual machines are assigned to each student, giving you a personalized learning experience. With a 98% success rate, SoftAfrique stands out. We don't just stop at training, we help you craft the perfect resume, ace your interviews, and support you even after you land the job. Why you'll love signing up with us. 1. Each learner gets a complimentary 1-year antivirus subscription for their computer. 2. Dedicated virtual machines are assigned to each student. 3. Students can access recorded classes to review each session as needed. 4. Test banks are available to prepare students for the exam.
Can you guys hear me?
Our lectures are scheduled from Thursday to Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with 2-hour sessions that fit into your schedule. Join the ranks of successful cybersecurity professionals today. Enroll now at SoftAfric by emailing us
Hello.
at elearning at
Can you
softafrique.net
guys hear me?
or calling 408-961-5150. Your future in
Yeah, hi,
cybersecurity
I
starts
can hear
here.
you.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm having fun. Okay, sure. I think it's coming now, right?
Are you ready to become a cybersecurity professional in just 4 months? At SoftAfric, we provide the perfect blend of theory and hands-on experience to prepare you for the job market even before you graduate.
So yeah, let's
Our state-of-the-art virtual
talk
labs
about
ensure you gain practical skills. Dedicated virtual machines are assigned to each student, giving you a personalized learning experience.
Awareness about the dangers, about
With a
the basic things that
98%
we
success
do
rate,
that
SoftAfric
can
stands out.
keep our
We don't just
digital
stop at training.
environment
We
secure.
help you craft the perfect
Because
resume,
most
ace your interviews,
things
and
or
support you
ways
even
in
after
which
you land the
hackers
job.
are able to actually succeed
Why you'll
always
love signing
result
up with
from human
us.
error. It's as a result of
1.
human errors.
Each learner gets a complimentary 1-year
the
antivirus subscription for their
cyber
computer.
attackers
2.
or
Dedicated
hackers
virtual
able to
machines are
understand
assigned to
that
each
advice
student.
you
3.
hear everyone
Students can
use to
access recorded
discuss
classes to
or
review
to
each
actually
session
show
as
us
needed.
or educate
4.
ourselves about the
Test
basics
banks are
of
available
how
to prepare
we
students
can
for the
keep our
exam.
digital system fit, our computers,
Our lectures are
mobile
scheduled
phones.
from Thursday to
And
Sunday at 6 p.m.
if you've been
Eastern
following
Standard
the
Time, with 2-hour sessions that
this
fit into your
threat
schedule.
intelligence seminar,
Join the
you
ranks
know
of
that we
successful
break our sessions into
cybersecurity
two.
professionals
We have
today.
the first session,
Enroll
which is
now
our
at
video awareness
SoftAfric by emailing
and
us
our
at
second
elearning at
session, which is probably
softafrique.net
our
or calling
discussion or our presentation
408-961-5150.
session.
Your
So
future in
I have a
cybersecurity
video
starts
that I'll
here.
play, and then after the video, that will be the first session. After the video, we can look at our second session where we do practical. We talk about other things.
Are you ready to
inside
become a
of the video. So let me
cybersecurity
start
professional
and
in
share
just
my
4
screen and
months?
play the video.
At
I'll play the
SoftAfric,
video
we
2
provide the
times. So make sure
perfect
you
blend
follow
of
the
theory
video
and hands-on
and
experience to
get
prepare
an
you for the job
understanding of what
market
the
even
video is
before you
trying to say.
graduate. Our state-of-the-art virtual labs ensure you gain practical skills. Dedicated virtual machines are assigned to each student, giving you a personalized learning experience. With a 98% success rate, SoftAfric stands out. We don't just stop at training. We help you craft the perfect resume, ace your interviews, and support you even after you land the job. Why you'll love
Marriott Starwood Hotels recently announced an ongoing data breach lasting 4 years that exposed the personal information of up to 500 million of its customers. The long-term cost to the company is projected to be in the billions.
Chamonix? Yeah, that's where we're gonna go wait things out for a little while. See, Nico's got this fantasy about wine tasting in Chamonix. I mean, you believe that? Him?
How about you start from the beginning?
All right, okay. So, say it was about a year ago, maybe more. I got this urgent text from Nico. Said he wanted to see me, so I went over there.
Oh, this is gonna be good. Real good.
Hey, what's up? I got here as soon as I could.
Do the letters MDM mean anything to you?
MDM, as in mobile device management, the software IT departments use to manage and secure their employees' laptops, tablets, and smartphones? Also known as our worst nightmare because it blocks guys like us from hacking employee-owned devices. No, I know nothing about it.
Oh, well, you mean it used to block guys like us? Just got my hands on an MDM tool that will allow us to bypass any company's MDM system.
Oh, my man.
Not only that, but a little birdie told me that the company he works for, Moontree Resorts, is updating their MDM software this weekend. He even took a screenshot of the email that went out to the application development team and sent it to me. He also gave me every employee's mobile number who's part of the app dev team.
Always helps to have someone on the inside.
Yep. So here's what I'm thinking. Saturday morning, we text message every member of the app dev team a link to our MDM software. Once they click the link installing it, those phones are owned.
We'll have access to every file stored on their devices.
And we can exfiltrate all of it to our MDM server, and they'll never know the difference.
Wait a minute. If they have up-to-date antivirus software on their phones,
Then it's no dice. We're not in.
and if they stayed on top of updating their phone's operating system,
Same thing. No dice. But what are the chances all 75 of these development people have AV and updated their phones? Zero. In fact, some developers think patching breaks things, so they never do it. Plus, how many people have antivirus software on their phone? Almost none.
well then, let's let her rip.
And the plan almost worked. Out of curiosity, how many users had both their operating system up to date and antivirus installed and up to date, since that would have been the surefire way to stop you guys?
More than we anticipated, actually. Turns out those IT guys were more diligent than we gave them credit for. But it only took one to get the information we needed. We eventually pulled passwords from a text document off the phones, used them to breach the Moontree network and steal their most sensitive records. Boom. I mean, we were home free. Just about to cash in.
Unfortunately for you, Nico made the mistake of building your MDM server with an IP address that traced back to you. And now here you are, ratting him out.
Yeah. So, what happens next? I mean, where to from here?
That, my friend, is up to the prosecutor. But I can tell you this, it's not going to involve wine tasting, and it's certainly not going to involve Chamonix.
Yeah, no Chamonix.
Marriott Starwood Hotels recently announced an ongoing data breach lasting 4 years that exposed the personal information of up to 500 million of its customers. The long-term cost to the company is projected to be in the billions.
Chamonix? Yeah, that's where we're gonna go wait things out for a little while. See, Nico's got this fantasy about wine tasting in Chamonix. I mean, you believe that? Him?
How about you start from the beginning?
All right, okay, so... Say it was about a year ago, maybe more. I got this urgent text from Nico. Said he wanted to see me, so I went over there.
Oh, this is gonna be good. Real good.
Hey, what's up? I got here as soon as I could.
Do the letters MDM mean anything to you?
MDM, as in mobile device management? The software IT departments use to manage and secure their employees' laptops, tablets, and smartphones. Also known as our worst nightmare because it blocks guys like us from hacking employee-owned devices. No, I know nothing about it.
Oh, well, you mean it used to block guys like us. Just got my hands on an MDM tool that will allow us to bypass any company's MDM system.
Oh, my man.
Not only that, but a little birdie told me that the company he works for, Moontree Resorts, is updating their MDM software this weekend. He even took a screenshot of the email that went out to the application development team and sent it to me. He also gave me every employee's mobile number who's part of the app dev team.
Always helps to have someone on the inside.
Yep. So here's what I'm thinking. Saturday morning, we text message every member of the app dev team a link to our MDM software. Once they click the link installing it, those phones are owned.
We'll have access to every file stored on their devices.
And we can exfiltrate all of it to our MDM server, and they'll never know the difference.
Wait a minute. If they have up-to-date antivirus software on their phones,
Then it's no dice. We're not in.
and if they stayed on top of updating their phone's operating system,
Same thing. No dice. But what are the chances all 75 of these development people have AV and updated their phones? Zero. In fact, some developers think patching breaks things, so they never do it. Plus, how many people have antivirus software on their phone? Almost none.
well then, let's let her rip.
And the plan almost worked. Out of curiosity, how many users had both their operating system up to date and antivirus installed and up to date, since that would have been the surefire way to stop you guys?
More than we anticipated, actually. Turns out those IT guys were more diligent than we gave them credit for. But it only took one to get the information we needed. We eventually pulled passwords from a text document off the phones, used them to breach the Moontree network and steal their most sensitive records. Boom. I mean, we were home free. Just about to cash in.
Unfortunately for you, Nico made the mistake of building your MDM server with an IP address that traced back to you. And now here you are, ratting him out.
Yeah. So, what happens next? I mean, where to from here?
That, my friend, is up to the prosecutor. But I can tell you this. It's not going to involve wine tasting, and it's certainly not going to involve Chamonix.
Yeah, no Chamonix.
Hello, can I still be heard?
Yes, you can be heard.
All right, so when we were watching the video, there are two things that this hacker who was caught actually said. And there was one, if the employees have antiviruses on their mobile devices, and two, if these employees have an up-to-date of the operating system. That means they've updated the operating system. It means that there's no way this hack can actually suffice or happen. Now, that is what will move us into our second part of the discussion, where we look at a tool that can actually help us update systems, can actually help us update software. Now, you're talking about the two that last week we looked at that, but we didn't finish. So I wanted this week, we wanted to cover a lot of things from the application, even though there are a lot of things that the application can do. What am I talking about? I'm talking about this application called Qualys. It is a vulnerability management tool or vulnerability management software that is being used by modern cybersecurity analysts and even companies as a whole to find vulnerabilities, prioritize them, and try and fix them. So last week, I was making this scenario that if you are in a company or if you are working, or let's take any organization as a whole, there are top levels of hierarchy inside every organization. So we have the bosses, or let's say the management, we have the production unit, we even have the marketing unit, and let's say the HR and probably the those who is in charge of the IT, the physical, the security team, all these modern organization. Now, inside this modern organization, there will be prioritizations. When I talk about prioritizations, in terms of computer, in terms of security for these people inside different sections under the company, there will be prioritization. Let's say that the company would want to prioritize their digital infrastructure. That is, let's say, their servers, their computer that they use to actually run services. And then they would also want to make sure that their bosses, that the top level management, the thing that they use, the digital infrastructure or their PCs, their computers, their laptops, their printers, they'll make sure that those ones are prioritized, because probably if anybody is able to get access to the computers of top level management, it means that this person will have, an administrative access rather than this person targeting, let's say, uh, an entry level worker. Let me put it that way. So definitely, how they will manage the systems of, let's say, their manager, their CEO, will be different from how they manage the system of, let's say, an entry level worker. That is what help us to make decisions. So with Qualys, it's just the same. You have to prioritize your company or prioritize sections under your company, and that is what we are looking at to do. And then after that, we look at how vulnerabilities are actually outlined in Qualys. So let's start with that. So give me a minute. Let me set Qualys up. share. Let's up to the share screen. All right, so this is the Qualys Cloud Platform application that we can use to manage the IT or the endpoints in our organization. Yes, we can use Qualys to manage the endpoint in our organization. Now, this is, let's say, the default platform of Qualys. And now we would want to actually assign priorities. Now, how do you assign priorities? How do you tell Qualys that this particular machine or this particular system that I'll be giving to you belongs to, let's say, HR, or this particular system is of high priority? So in everything that I do, I would want to actually manage this computer first. That is the idea. And by doing that inside Qualys, there's something that we call an asset tag. You create an asset tag and you define this tag and you give this tag its value. So the value will tell Qualys that, okay, any computer that falls under this tag would be prioritized or will be classified as very, very important. And let's look at that here. So once you are on the Qualys Cloud Platform, you click on this console. This arrow will bring you all the consoles or all the things that Qualys can actually do. And you are looking for Global Asset View. Global Asset View or CSAM. There are just two different types where you can actually find the same thing there, right? So the CSAM is Cybersecurity Access Management, and then the Global Asset View is GAV. So once you are here at the Global Asset View, the CSAM is an upgrade of the Global Asset View. So just put that in mind. Now, once you are here, you'll see tags. Tags. We will define a tag, or we will create a tag where we will tell this Qualys platform that, okay, whatever tag we give and whatever computer that falls under this tag, it means that prioritize this particular computer. And that is by creating a new one. So let's create a new tag here. You click on create, it will bring you here. What is the name? So let's say that critical infrastructures. Let's name our device as critical now. Do you want to actually define this critical infrastructure? What are the things that you want to be under, or you want to actually probably write a few things so as if any other IT person sees this, the person will know that, okay, this belongs, or computers under this belongs to, let's say, the most important computers in our organization. So let's say that you write a brief description about this particular tag that you are creating. So let's say that this will house all critical devices in our organization. Now, and then this is where it gets better. That is the asset criticality score. That is where you get to tell Qualys how important this asset is to your organization, or how important assets that will fall under this particular tag, how important are they? And that is the asset criticality score. Once you are here, you take this asset criticality score and it will give you a rating of 1 to 5. So 1 is from, let's say, 1 to 20, 2 to 40. So in terms of percentages, that is how it is. But then here is from a criticality score of 1 to 5. 5 meaning that this particular group that we are creating, all computers that will fall under this group will be of utmost importance. And then it is those devices that if we find vulnerabilities on, we should prioritize them early and fix them. If you missed the session last week, Qualys is a vulnerability management software mostly. What is vulnerability? Now, vulnerability just are the weaknesses or the flaws that we encounter in our applications. Every app, every software, be it an operating system or an application software, can have vulnerabilities, can have cracks embedded or as a result of its coding, or sometimes as a result of some bugs that were discovered after the apps were created, right? And the vendors themselves, that is the publishers of these softwares, they also sit down and test their own applications every time. After testing it, reviewing it, when they see an error or they find a vulnerability, they publish this vulnerability and they tell us how we can solve this vulnerability, right? Now, to an ordinary person, you can't identify this vulnerability. And to identify these vulnerabilities, you have to be going to their vendor's website. And mind you, there are a lot of applications, there are a lot of software developers or companies who develop software. So how will you be able to know all the vulnerabilities in the world, or that your application that you are using have this or that vulnerability that has been published out in the world? So Qualys can actually help you do that. Once you have Qualys set up on your organization and you have your assets are your computers, your phones, your digital devices. Once you have your assets connected to Qualys, Qualys can scan your devices and find out all the vulnerabilities that are associated or all the vulnerabilities that are on your devices, and it will tell you how to fix it. In a more advanced session and a more paid session, you can actually automate these updates so that you can tell Qualys to update these things for you. And mostly when you talk about fixing vulnerabilities, it's more about installing updates or installing patches, security patches to fix that weakness in the system, right? And now with these things, you have to manage them because you can't install the patches on every device. You have to prioritize some devices. You fix these devices first before you move on to the next device, or you fix this set of devices before you move to other sets of devices, right? And to actually prioritize or to create a form of importance in Qualys with your assets, you have to create an asset tag. So that is what we are doing right now. And here, you must give it a criticality score of 5. Once you give it a criticality score of 5, you are telling Qualys that this group that you are creating is important. So all the devices that will fall under this group is important. Now, you can actually set a color. That is also mostly fun about this. It's just something to identify it. And then how will you add the assets to this? Now, you can do that manually. You can add assets to this manually, right? Or you can actually create a rule that will automatically bring all that assets that fall under this rule to this tag or to be tagged like this. So once you create a rule and that particular computer follow or fall under that rule, that computer will automatically be assigned this tag and will be given a criticality score of 5, saying that this computer is actually important. And to create that rule, you come here to the dynamic and then you select the rule. So the rule can even be the IP address. So we can actually write the IP address here, as many IP addresses as you can. So you create one, you add another, you add another. So it means that every computer that has this particular IP address will be assigned this tag. And once it is assigned this tag, it means it is important. That is one thing about this particular rule. So you can actually create many rules for even the name of the particular asset. So the name, what is the name of that particular computer? You can actually give, input the name here, and any computer that has that particular name will be classified under this tag, and then will be given utmost importance. That is about asset tag here. And there are other ports too here. So all the computers that have this particular port will actually fall under this. Now, what are ports? Let me try my best to define ports. The ports are actually, let's say, places or systems where we attach other things to our computer. So we have our USB ports, we have our earpiece ports, we have our network ports. All these things are ports. Now, that port that you see at the side of your computer are all ports, but then they are physical ports because we attach cables to that place physically, right? Now we have other types of ports, that are called logical ports, right? With the logical ports, they are mostly for, let's say, wireless connections, right? So Bluetooth connections or connecting your computer to the internet. What ports will you use? Because these ports are mostly for connections, right? Sending file from your computer to another computer over a network. These also uses ports. So if, let's say, you are using a physical port, you just slot in maybe a USB to a USB, you connect it to the other computer, and then you send the device, or you slot in a pen drive, you download the thing, you pull it out, you take it to other computer. That's the physical port. But with the logical ones, it is mostly for connections wirelessly, right? So here you can actually define them, and we have lots of them. I'm talking about the logical one. There are thousands of them because your computer actually connects to different things at once. It connects to, let's say, Bluetooth. It connects to websites. It connects to sending messages, sending files, sending audios. All these things will have its individual ports. So with the ports, there are lots of them. So you can actually define or write the number of ports here. Once you do that, it will create a rule for all computers who have this particular port open or who have this particular port running, and then it will classify them as, let's say, critical infrastructure. So that is about the rule. So let's say that when you have a website, right? You have a website, you have a server that will actually back this website, or you have a server that will power this particular website. If you are doing it on your own. For this particular server, it will have a port open that will allow people who visit the particular website to interact with this particular server. So let's say you click on the website will send this request to the server will send it back. So that's its port. I think it's port let's say 3 or 888. So one of them. And once you do that, the port, you send a request to a website, the website will take it to its server. The server will handle your request and will send it back to you. So if this port is open, it allows connection from somebody to access the website. But if this port is closed, it means that there's no way that anybody can actually access your website, and that port should always be open. So to create this rule, you can actually define the number of ports that you want to be under this rule. So let's say that if that particular server has all these ports there, that server that powers that website will be considered as critical infrastructure. And that is one thing about the rule. And once it's considered as critical infrastructure, it will be given the utmost importance here And then you can go ahead, look for vulnerabilities and fix them. So that is one thing about the rule. So we have the IP address, we have a lot of things there. We also have vulnerability QIDs, and we will look at that. But the vulnerability QIDs are, let's say, numbers that are assigned to vulnerabilities. So let's say that you see on the internet that there is this vulnerability out there, that there is a weakness out there, outside, or let's say on the dark web or on the internet, that if this vulnerability is on your device, anybody can hack your system easily. Like, can hack them easily. So you've heard about this particular vulnerability. Now, you have this vulnerabilities QID. You can come here, create a tag, put this vulnerability QID, and set the rule about that. And then it will capture all computers on your system that has this particular vulnerability. And then you can now group these computers and try and fix them, because you've heard that this vulnerability is so active on the internet, or is so active on the dark web, that they are using it to exploit systems. So that is one thing. That is why the rules here are very, very important. And then I won't create any rule. So once you don't actually create any rule for your computers, Qualys automatically assign them a criticality score of 2, or a score of 2, let me put it that way, so that it makes a medium. So if you don't actually create any tag to group your assets or to give to your assets, Qualys will automatically give it 2. That is the default selection. That's how it analyzes, or that's how it is given to computers. Now, I said we will look at QIDs. So let's go and look at vulnerabilities, how it is written in Qualys, or how it is defined in Qualys. So once you are here, you click on the VMDR section. And then you go to knowledge base. Knowledge base. Now, the knowledge base is the dictionary of Qualys. It is where all vulnerabilities are stored, or it is where all knowledge about vulnerabilities are stored. This is how vulnerabilities are actually written. So you see here the QID that I was talking about here is the first thing on the list. You have the CVID. I'll explain all of them as best as I can. Now, when the vendors themselves, so Qualys don't actually write these vulnerabilities. No, they pick it up from all over the internet. They pick it up from the vendors themselves. So let's say Microsoft will have a website that will publish vulnerabilities in their software. So every Microsoft application that you are using, as long as Microsoft find a vulnerability, they will publish it on their website. Apple or Mac OS will also do their own. Cisco will do their own. Adobe will do their own. So all the big companies, or all the companies, will actually do their own, right? So Qualys will actually pick all from there. We'll pick these vulnerabilities, how they define them, and then once they come to their system, it will modify it, and then it will actually give it, more, it will make it more readable for you, and assign the necessary things to make it interesting for you to understand. Now, here we have the QID. Now, the QID stands for Qualys Identification. It is a number that uniquely identifies a vulnerability inside Qualys. So Qualys will give this particular vulnerability a unique name inside its system that will be used to reference specific vulnerabilities, right? So every particular vulnerability that Qualys will pick from the outside and break into its system, it will assign it a QID. So that is what you see here. And then from the QID, we have the CVE ID. And the CVE ID is also another important code that are assigned to vulnerabilities. What is the CVE ID? I think the CVE stands for Common Vulnerability and Exposure Identifier. The CVE ID, Common Vulnerability and Exposure Identifier. What does this mean? Now, this is the unique number that the vendors themselves assign to the vulnerability. So who are the vendors? Microsoft would catch a vulnerability, let me put it that way, and will assign a CVE ID so that if you want to research more about it, or so that it can be used to tag this particular vulnerability. Now, the CVE ID comprises of two separate sets of numbers. The first set gives you the year in which this vulnerability was actually identified. So if you see here on my screen, you see that CVE 2015. So you see CVE 2015, meaning that this particular vulnerability was first discovered in 2015. Oh, I'm doing too much. That this particular vulnerability was actually first discovered in 2015, right? Now, the other set of number is actually given to that to count the number of vulnerability that was actually gotten in the year. Or that was actually the number of vulnerability that this particular vulnerability falls under according to their company's metric system, right? So the first set is a year, and the second set is a unique number that is being given from the vendors. So the vendors will name this particular vulnerability with a CVE ID, and then Qualys will also give this vulnerability a kill ID. That is the difference between the two. Now, we look at the severity level. The severity level is how dangerous this particular vulnerability is in terms of what it can do to a system, right? So it is from 1 to 5, and this criticality score is being given by Qualys, the application as a whole. So Qualys will also do their own research. They have their team, they have their database, they have their AI and everything. They will also do their research and actually give this particular vulnerability a criticality score or a severity score of 1 to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each criticality score depends on how dangerous they can be. Depends on how dangerous these things can actually be. So from 1 is info, 2 is low, 3 is medium, 4 is high, and 5 is critical. So that is how so if it's assigned 1, it's just this person can just use it to get information from you, nothing else. When it's actually low, it means that this vulnerability is unlikely to be exploited. When it's medium, it means that this vulnerability may be exploited, but potentially it can actually lead to moderate data exposure or system compromise. That is, when it's at level number 3, it's a medium level. It has the potential to compromise system. Let me put it that way. And when it is high, it means that this vulnerability can be exploited, which can lead to significant data exposure, system compromise or disruption of service. That is the criticality score of 4. And when it is 5, it means that this vulnerability can easily be exploited and can give unauthorized access. It can also give data breaches and can also give the attackers complete control of your system. That is a criticality score of 5. So that is, a severity level of 5. That is how pilots will rate this particular vulnerability. And then the title is the name of the vulnerability. So the name of the vulnerability is here. That is the name of this particular vulnerability. So this is how vulnerabilities are named. So Fedora security updates, Ubuntu security notification for this is how vulnerabilities are actually written. And the CVEID, the QIDs are just numbers that are assigned to that. And then these are just references of this particular vulnerability from the vendor. How the vendors also reference it inside their own databases, right? And then the last one that I'll talk about here is the CVS score. The CVS score is how dangerous this particular vulnerability is in the eyes of the vendors or in the eyes of the people who saw it, right? That is how dangerous it is. But Qualys sees danger in its own way through the severity level of 1 to 5. But the CVSS score is mostly how severe this vulnerability is, and it's calculated, it's mathematically calculated by the vendors themselves. And this is how dangerous they see this particular vulnerability. And then there's also from 1 or 0 to 10, 0 to 10. While Qualys' own severity level is from 1 to 5, the CVSS score, which is the accepted score for vulnerabilities outside of this particular system or outside of Qualys, is from 1 to 10. 1 to 10. So this is how vulnerabilities are actually written. Now, we can actually look at a few things about one vulnerability. Let's look at the information here of how much Qualys has gathered about this particular vulnerability. Now, this is the details. Now, Qualys will actually tell you the title here again, the severity level, the vulnerability type, how can you discover it on your system? You discover it on your system through authenticated only, meaning that you must have complete access of Qualys to identify this particular vulnerability on a system. Now, let's look at a few more details about this particular vulnerability. Now, you see here, the CVID is repeated here, the vendor reference is here. Now, that has been able to tell us that yes, there is a patch available for this particular vulnerability. So if you have this vulnerability, you shouldn't worry. There's a way to fix this particular vulnerability, right? And then you look at how is this a threat? Now, this is how this particular vulnerability is. It affects Fedora systems. So Fedora operating system, this is a type of system that this particular vulnerability will actually affect. So if you have a Fedora system on your computer, you would be likely to encounter this vulnerability. And then version 23, version 2022, you would have this particular vulnerability. And let's look at its impact. Successful exploitation allows attacker to compromise the system. That is how dangerous this particular vulnerability can be. It can allow the attacker to compromise a system. What are the solutions to this particular problem? The solutions are here. Fedora as a company has issued updated packages to fix this vulnerability. So this is how to fix this particular vulnerability. So Fedora has seen this vulnerability they have released an update or a patch for this vulnerability. That if you want to actually fix this vulnerability, you can click on these links. So following are the links for downloading patches to fix the vulnerabilities. Once you click on the link, it will take you to their website. But here, that particular website had been deleted because it was discovered in 2016. That particular vulnerability was discovered in 2016, and then we are in 2025. So they believe that this vulnerability no longer exists unless you are using an olden version of Fedora. That is why this particular vulnerability no longer exists in Fedora system. But then in Qualys, it is a database or a dictionary of all vulnerabilities that have existed before or that still exist, and it will put all of them together. Every week, Qualys will update its system, find new vulnerabilities, add them to their own dictionary, that's the knowledge base, group them, and tell you how to actually fix these vulnerabilities. And that is about the knowledge base in Qualys. So talk about the asset tags, how to prioritize assets in Qualys. And we've looked at the dictionary of Qualys. That is how vulnerabilities are actually written, in Qualys. So let me actually do the one last thing, and then we can end this session. Where are you? So now let's look at one particular system that we have Qualys installed on. Or we have Qualys enabled on to add to our device. So this is that particular device, right? So this is where the device is. They have a lot of information about that device, where it's located, when was the last time it was active. All these things are here. And the ones I want us to see is the vulnerabilities. So now Qualys has been able to see 35 vulnerabilities on this particular machine. That this machine has 35 weaknesses that must be fixed. Out of the 35, 32 out of them are confirmed. 3 are potential vulnerable. That means 3 has the ability to be vulnerable or has the ability to be a weakness, but now it's not confirmed, right? But then the 32, out of the 32, we have 3 of them which are severity level 5. We have 23 of them which are severity level 4. Then we have 6 of them which are severity level 3. So that is how Qualys will be able to identify vulnerabilities on your system. And then you can actually go ahead and fix these vulnerabilities. You can actually fix these vulnerabilities with Qualys or outside Qualys. That is also another discussion for another day. But then this is how Qualys write vulnerabilities. This is how Qualys do vulnerabilities. And this is how Qualys can identify vulnerabilities on your particular system for you, so that you can actually look at it and fix it. So let's say that you work in an organization that you have, let's say, 2,000 laptops. Each particular laptop will have its own vulnerability. Then how to fix all these vulnerabilities on these 2,000 laptops, that will be also a problem, a challenge. Qualys has a way that you can actually automate all this process, give some commands, and then as long as these sets of computers, that the 2,000 computers connected to the internet and connected to Qualys, it can install updates and patches for you. So this will be the end of today's Qualys session. Qualys is a vulnerability management tool that is used to identify weaknesses and also how to fix these weaknesses. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Thomas. I have a quick question.
Okay.
I think the explanation is actually clear, but I wanted to find out if you are in an organization and just like you are saying, you have a very large fleet of systems or devices that you need to actually manage their vulnerabilities. Going to them one by one is obviously a non-starter. So inside Qualys, is there a way by which you could deploy agents to all these particular devices for ease of administration?
Yes, your answer is yes. So with Qualys, as long as you have this particular, you have these fleets of computers connected to Qualys. Now, there are lots of ways that Qualys can actually bring these fleets together, right? We have one where you provide the IP addresses of these fleets of computers there. We also have one where you put in a passive sensor, or you put on this particular device, all of them, you install a sensor, a passive sensor. The sensor is a physical device. There's also a virtual device there, and Qualys has a manual how to put this sensor on your organizational topography, that is your organizational network. Once you do that, Qualys will be able to identify all these computers, and once these computers are on board, you can assign agents on them. You can assign cloud agents. It is called Qualys Cloud Agents. That is also another way you can assign Qualys Cloud Agents on these fleet of assets. Now, in Qualys, there is also a place where you'll be able to fix vulnerabilities, right? There is patch management here. You see, there's patch management here, but then to have that patch management, you need to have, or you need to pay more subscription for this. And once you have this passive sensor, once you have this cloud agent and everything deployed, this patch management, you can be able to automate it, and it will install this update on a fleet of computers for you inside Qualys. But then